Be thankful for all the rude, obnoxious, and difficult people you meet in life. They serve as important reminders of how not to be. Today on rLounge, we don't let people pull us into their storms. Instead, we pull them into our peace. Up first, a mother-in-law who doesn't practice what her church preaches. Revenge on my mother-in-law, who was horrible to me for years and then decided she would wear the exact same dress as me to my wedding. This was posted in Just Know Mother-in-Law, but apparently it didn't meet their guidelines and someone suggested I should post it here. TW, mention of religious trauma. I was looking at my wedding photos today and thought this community would appreciate my success. It's a bit long with all the background, so go make a cuppa and settle in. My mother-in-law hated me from the moment we met. Think evangelical Catholic meets goth atheist. I moved in with her son and had a baby without getting married, and she truly believed I was the devil incarnate, sent to draw her baby boy into the depths of hell. There followed years of petty microaggressions, a constant barrage of manipulation and guilt tripping, and doing things like offering to watch the kids then pulling out half an hour before, or buying the kids a puppy when we expressly said no and then blaming us when she had to take the poor thing back. She pushed over my motorbike, turned up at my work, tried to rearrange the furniture in our house, and constantly talked about God and Jesus in front of the kids and told them they were going to hell because they weren't baptized. I want very low contact and things were quiet for a while. I never cared about getting married. I felt weddings were a waste of money. I'd rather have a boat or a new motorbike, but it was important to hubby, so I agreed, on the condition that it was not a church wedding. Apart from the generally problematic nature of the church, I experienced religious trauma growing up and I wasn't prepared to compromise. Hubby agreed and we started planning. 2 days after we announced our engagement, too much wailing, gnashing of teeth, and general dismay, a priest arrived on our doorstep. He had been sent by mother-in-law to schedule a date for our wedding and book us in for our premarital counseling. I was very nice to him. After all, my issue was with the institution, not this poor guy, and thanked him for coming and told him we wouldn't be requiring any Catholic services for the wedding. He looked sad and expressed he was a bit nervous to let mother-in-law know. I offered him coffee and sympathy, and that was the start of an unlikely friendship. I was fairly annoyed by this stunt. I talked to my hubby, who at the time was so far in the fog that he couldn't see a hand in front of his face. He didn't see the big deal and asked me to just let it go. I thought about it for a day, then told him no. We had to address this immediately or it would escalate. I understood that he loved his mom and sisters, but that their obvious contempt for me was a problem. I don't like ultimatums, but by this point, I'd been putting up with it for about 6 years. I laid it out. We addressed it now or no wedding. It went about as well as you'd expect. We visited, and hubby tried to talk to her about how inappropriate her actions were. She screamed at him and cried, and then his sisters started on both of us. Standing there, watching my hubby's heart break, my filter broke. I told them to stop, very loudly. Then, I told them that they were behaving like toddlers, that I was embarrassed by their antics and to consider this their first and only warning. If they tried anything like that again, or treated us with anything other than kindness and respect, not only would I cancel the wedding, I would tell their priest and all their friends about their disgusting behavior. If they wanted to be part of the planning, I would welcome their participation, but that hubby and I had the final say. Mother-in-law tried to speak, but I shushed her like Dr. Evil shushing Scott, and we left. Hubby was distraught, and I felt bad for him, but we got into couples counseling and things got better. Meanwhile, mother-in-law and the sister-in-laws seemed to have taken things on board and were maintaining a frost civility, although I was banned from their house because I was scary. Fast forward about 12 months. Time for dress shopping. Ye gods, I hated the idea of a wedding dress. I hate pale colors. I hate dressing up. I hate dresses. Just everything about the idea made me want to fake a coma to get out of it, but I promised my own very just yes mum and brother that we could do this together. So mum, mother-in-law, sister-in-law times 3, brother and his wife all traipsed along with me to marvel at the sight of me in a dress. And it wasn't a bad day. The in-laws behaved, and I found a dress that I didn't hate as much as the others. I paid for it, and we left. The next day, I got a call from the shop. Mother-in-law and the sister-in-laws had ordered themselves the exact same dress as me. I told hubby, and he didn't really believe it. I laughed about it for a bit and went back to the shop and ordered a new dress. This one was dark purple with black trim. And then I had the idea. I don't have a lot of female friends, but all my male friends have wives who had wedding dresses. And sometimes they say they feel that they spent all that money on a dress that they'll never wear again. I talked to hubby and he agreed. So the invitations went out and every person who had ever worn a wedding dress was invited to wear it to our wedding. Mother-in-law and the sister-in-laws got different invitations that specifically asked that they not wear white. Dress code was stated as whatever you're comfortable in. I wasn't there for the initial confusion that swiftly turned to rage, but my mom and brother gleefully recounted the story later. All 4 of them turned up in their beautiful white dresses with their beautiful makeup and hair, and were completely absorbed by the rest of the crowd. They didn't stand out. They looked exactly like everyone else, except for my mom and brother's wife, who wore purple like me. They weren't going to ruin my day by upstaging me. My hubby, who up to that point really didn't think they would do something like so vile, turned to stone that day. They had finally shown the depths that they would sink to, and the last of the fog was swept away. I turned up in the sidecar of a Harley. I did experiment with riding in the dress, but it didn't end so well, and the shop had to make a few emergency repairs the week before. I walked down the aisle to the Imperial March by myself. My brother was my maid of honor, and his wife was my hubby's best man. Remember the priest? Well, he wasn't allowed to officiate outside a church as a priest, so he was our MC. This was the icing on the cake because I saw mother-in-law's face light up when she saw him, until he introduced the marriage celebrant and handed over the microphone. We had a pagan hand fasting, jumped over a broomstick, and walked back down the aisle to Sweet Child of Mine, while our 2 kids played air guitar and danced ahead of us, and ignored mother-in-law and sister-in-laws when they tried to get them to go over there. I came face to face with my mother-in-law at the door. She was incandescent with rage. She went to speak, but my hubby stepped forward, and he shushed her, right in front of everyone. It was glorious. She didn't speak to either of us for the rest of the night. She didn't speak to us for nearly a month, and then she called one day to ask to see the kids as if nothing had happened. So we let it go because my husband and I had won. But every now and then I wear the purple dress when I know she'll be at an event, because I'm petty like that. Edit. I went to bed and found out it had blown up overnight. I can't respond individually to everyone, so I'll clarify a few things here. The wedding was 20 years ago. We've been happily married since, and the in-laws have mellowed with age. The sister-in-laws all have their own partners and kids, and we hang out sometimes. I'm not in the US. Being family does not give anyone the right to treat people badly. My mother-in-law did not deserve consideration just because she was my hubby's mom. I'm not pagan. I'm an atheist, encouraged both by horrible experiences as a child and young adult and a career in science. I don't have a blanket hate for religious people, and I respect their right to practice their faith should they choose to do so. We didn't have a pagan wedding. It was a secular ceremony that included things that hubby and I liked. I actually wanted to jump over a fire, but it was summer and we had a total fire ban, so even if I wasn't scared about setting myself ablaze, we wouldn't have been able to do it. The original dress I had purchased was about $300. There was no way I was spending thousands on a dress I would never wear again, so it wasn't out of mother-in-law's budget. Not all the women chose to wear their own wedding dresses, and as far as I know, no one bought a new wedding dress just for the day. The bridal shop helped a few people source second-hand ones to borrow. Priests are normal people under all that religious stuff. The priest in question is still our friend. We bonded over a love of Terry Pratchett's books, Star Trek, Star Wars, Lego, and all things nerdy. I showed him some of the comments and he was confused. Priests are allowed to go to and participate in things that aren't related to their church. I mean, they have families, friends, etc., and not all of them are Catholic. He did point out that some dioceses are much stricter than others, especially in traditional religious countries. My kids taught me about the dangers of doxing a few years ago. No photos. Some people think it's a fake story. That's okay too. Sometimes it's nice to feel smug and self-righteous about something that doesn't matter to anyone except the participants. If it would make you feel better, I could add something obviously fake so you can go, "Ha! I knew it! Liar, liar, pants on fire." How about we went on our honeymoon to Mars? Going to work now. I'm glad so many people have enjoyed the epic saga of my wedding day. And all those wanting to be my friend, that makes me happy. Edit 2. Given how this has blown up, I googled the dress shop to see if it was still there. Sadly, it appears that it has closed down, so they can't use this for free advertising. Sally, Kylie, Georgia, if you're out there, I think of you often. You guys are the true heroes here. The community has some thoughts, starting off with Shelly895. Shout out to the bridal shop for informing OP of what the mother-in-law and sister-in-laws were planning. Real lifesavers. The OP replies, they seem to have a lot of experience dealing with mums and mother-in-laws who didn't know how to behave. Once all the wedding furor had died down, I went back and visited them with a big hamper of deliciousness as thanks. They benefited too. The wedding got a bit of publicity locally, and I sang their praises to anyone that would listen. Plus, several of my guests chose to buy dresses from them for the wedding. Wins for everyone, except my mother-in-law, of course. Our next thought comes from Tataria. You not just made your revenge, you also made all those women's day by letting them wear their wedding dresses again. Love it. The OP replies, they were all super enthusiastic about the idea. There were a few who weren't able to wear one for various reasons, but the original dress shop helped them out. Anyone that didn't want to was welcome to wear whatever they like. Bardsey says, I'm not surprised Just No Mother-in-Law didn't like this story. I've been temp banned there several times myself. You are only allowed to either take the abuse and rage on the sub or go complete no contact. Any storylines where you advise or do call people out or give them a taste of their own medicine is immediately met with a barrage of gaslighting reports and comments that you're worse than they are. Giving someone enough rope to hang themselves isn't gaslighting. Wow. To go as low as to buy the same dress as you? That's a new low. I'm sorry you're stuck with a mother-in-law like that, OP, but you definitely handle the situation well. If there's one way to do it, that is it. And to be so humble after all you've been through is huge inspiration. You've done nothing wrong, and you definitely didn't deserve this type of treatment. Nobody should force their religious beliefs on anyone. That's so disrespectful. I'll never understand why super religious people don't practice what they preach. It's a lot harder to be rude than kind. People have to actually go out of their way to be rude. And by wearing the purple dress, I don't think you're being petty, OP. I think you're just giving her a gentle reminder of where she stands in your life. What do you make of this? Next, a sister-in-law who hides and consequently must seek all of her cutlery. But she only leaves me alone for 3 minutes tops. I visit my brother-in-law every other year. He and hubby dash off to listen to music or whatever, leaving me with my sister-in-law, who always finds a way to leave me sitting alone in her family room. Once she went to glue a bow on a wreath for 2 hours. She then denies leaving me alone. She tells everyone it was only for 3 minutes tops. It makes me so mad that she denies leaving me sit in a room with nothing to do. So we recently went back there. Hubby and brother-in-law had to make a Home Depot run. 5 seconds later, she excused herself. I waited patiently for 15 minutes. I then walked to the kitchen and pulled out 3 utensils from her utensil drawer and hid them. I sat back down, but she still didn't return, so I walked back in and opened both the utensil drawers. I put one in the washer, one in the dryer, and one in the pantry. I hid every last utensil. When we left, she had not yet graced me with her presence. I told the rest of my family how she left me sit alone in her house again, and for the first time ever, she couldn't deny it. Denying it would mean that she had to explain how I was alone long enough to hide every utensil in her kitchen. I won't see her again for 2 years, but I bet she doesn't leave me alone again. The community has some responses. First, 3 Heathens Mom says, agree with the other posters, let your husband go visit his brother and you stay home. You get to relax, husband gets his brother fix, and brother's wife doesn't have to play hostess. Symphony for the Devil says, yeah, some couples really need to learn to be individuals again. She can go clothes or scrapbook shopping alone. There's no reason he needs to be dragged along for 2 hours for something he hates. She can go see her mother alone or wherever he doesn't like going. He can go visit his brother without her if she doesn't enjoy their company. I don't think their feelings will be too hurt since they don't seem to enjoy spending time with her anyway, and that's fine. You're not always going to bond with each other's family. Traditional Air 9483 says, call an Uber and leave. Have your husband leave you the car and the keys. Go shopping, out to lunch. Make sister-in-law look for you, when she ever cut Mrs. back into the room. Screw her. You don't want to socialize with her anyway. Next time, just snoop, or watch Netflix, or go along with hubby and brother-in-law if you can. I hope she's still finding those utensils to this day. Next time, take a few with you, so she'll never know where you hid them, and she'll be looking forever for those last 2 pieces, slowly losing her mind in the process. Do you have similar experiences? Lastly, a neighbor whose big mouth got him in trouble. Neighbor didn't like the color of my house. This was about 10 or 11 years ago in a medium-sized city in Indiana. I moved into a house and had it planned to a new color scheme. It looked nice, was a little different than the surrounding homes, but it wasn't pink and yellow or anything stupid. Some wackadoodle across the street came over and said it was horrible looking and told me to change it. Well, I wondered if maybe I was not thinking right, so I asked 4 other neighbors and none of them had any issue at all. Thought it was a nice improvement. So I let him know no one else had an issue and he told me, I've got deep pockets. If you don't change it, I'm getting a lawyer. I told him to go ahead and have a nice day. After a few lawyers told him he had no case, he tried to get an HOA formed, held meetings, paid someone to draw up the proposed rules, etc. No one else would agree, so his investment was a waste, and he just wouldn't stop complaining about it. Well, I already owned several rental properties at that point and was always on the hunt for more. So when the houses next door to him were selling, I ended up buying both of them, but never told him I owned either. I had picked up the first one in early fall and the other in winter. So when summer rolled around, I had both of them painted the exact same as mine. He was so pissed. Even better is the fact that I bought them in 2009, 2010 and sold them last year for very nice profit. Thanks, irrationally angry man. Clear Consequence 114 from the community says, my neighbors painted their house all dark blue, minus one spot they ran out of paint and painted it brown. Personally, I hate it, and it sets off my OCD. So you know what I do? Mind my dang business and not look at it. Buyer Monkey Woman chimes in, I love this. I had a friend. We are no longer friends because of crap like this. She and I were driving around town doing errands together. She pointed to a house, a lovely well-kept home in a nice neighborhood, and complained about the color. It was a dark gray with white trim. I murmured something like, not my first choice, but it's not bad. Then another day, she pointed out a house in her own neighborhood that was painted dark green, fresh new paint job. She hated it. I didn't agree with her. I just don't get why something that doesn't or shouldn't affect them gets some folks all riled up. Incredible that he wanted to start an HOA over this. Georgia JL38 says, love it. Don't know what the problem is with yellow though. I just painted a rental property that historically had been a butter yellow, a dark aqua. The neighbors applauded my painters. It's a beach property, so we have a full range of possible colors. This is actually amazing and the best way to get back at someone. That guy should have just kept his mouth shut. What's the big deal with paint color? You're not hurting him or bothering him in any way. He just must think he's the king of the hill. If he doesn't like it, maybe he can move or get some curtains. Idiot. Do your neighbors have an opinion about what you do on your own property? Let us know below. And thank you for joining us today on rLounge. Before you go, be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell. If you have something you want to say regarding today's content, share that with us in the comments below. See you next time.